Taylor sent me a text and wanted to meet me in January of 2018. We met, she gave me a hug, which in hindsight, I thought that was rather peculiar for what I was about to be accused of. She said, "I've got a letter I want to read to you." This is just portions of the letter. "Dad, I would like to acknowledge the ways you have helped me throughout my life. I want to thank you for being a large part of my healing. I'm very grateful. More importantly, I want to tell you that I am no longer blind or numb to the sexual abuse and trauma you put me through as a child. Back then, I had insufficient coping mechanisms to endure such suffering and confusion. I do not want any contact with you. You may contact me only when you are ready to admit and apologize for your actions. I will continue to pray for the courage to forgive you. Bella." She slid a copy of the letter over to me and walked out the door. I have not talked to her since January 5th of 18. At this point, I see no future unless she can ultimately come to the revelation I didn't do it. And we moved from there. There was no way that I was going to apologize for something that I didn't do.
What was your first reaction when you heard this allegation?
That accusation pretty well froze me in my seat. I just turned around, went home. My wife was surprised to see me walk in the door, and I just handed her the letter and I walked into the other room.
She says, "You have always helped me with papers, speeches, and professional endeavors," and then drops the bombshell. Have you ever molested your daughter?
No, sir.
Have you ever been sexually inappropriate with your daughter?
No.
Have you ever done anything with your daughter that she could misinterpret, that she could mischaracterize, take out of context, look at in a different way as a revisionist historian and assign a different value to it?
I understand. No.
Where do you think this is coming from then?
When she came back, I think it may be tied to the abuse that she suffered when she was out in LA. I think when she came back, I became aware of the fact that she was seeing a particular therapist. And my sister, who was also a therapist, was aware of who this individual was. Taylor had had some conversations in family meetings and probably talked a little bit about, hey, I'm seeing a therapist, because my sister was one herself. So I think they had some dialogue at some point, unbeknownst to me. And my sister said, "Oh, I know who she is." And I'll use her words. She says she's kind of a quack in the community. She has a tendency to rely on that book for anybody that mentions that they've got an eating disorder. And she says, I wouldn't put any weight in that interpretation.
And is that why she sought treatment, is for the eating disorder?
I couldn't tell you that. You'd have to address that too.
But that's something this individual tends to treat?
Yes.
Okay, now you say in the letter, she said, do not reach out to her for 6 months. Did she say why 6 months versus tomorrow or 3 months or a year or never?
No.
And you also had to share this with your now wife, Marsha.
Yes.
And Larry's wife, Marsha, says that she has watched Taylor grow up since she was a young teen and has concerns, frankly, not about Larry, but about his daughter. Take a look.
It was in 2002 that I first met Taylor. She devoted most of her day to dance, and she told us that she was going to move to LA and follow her dream of dancing. Once she returned from LA, she had a bad eating disorder. Then she called and asked Larry to meet her at a restaurant. She then said he had sexually abused her. He came home about 10 minutes later, and he just handed me the letter, and my mouth dropped. We hugged and we cried and tried to figure out how to deal with this. He has had no communication, nor have I, since 2018. Dr. Phil, please help Taylor get through this and navigate this journey towards health.
Well, Marsha is joining us virtually from their home in Iowa. Marsha, when Larry came home and told you about this, what was your initial reaction? What was your initial thought?
Oh, you can't even describe it.
Your heart sinks, you're devastated, and you know it's not true.
And you say that you feel like you have to be really careful around Taylor. You have to watch your words. It's kind of like you have to tiptoe around her. What is it about her that makes you feel like you have to do that?
Many times, what you say is misinterpreted or twisted around. I don't trust her.
I'm not only Taylor's mom, I'm her best friend. Taylor and I are very close. I've been there for her 100%. She does live with me now. I support her each and every day so that she can have a life. I always thought Taylor was very healthy, and I had no idea that she had any problems with food. After her stint in LA is when I realized that she had an eating disorder. Taylor got down to 80 pounds and taken to Denver Acute, and they said she was days away from dying. They put 20 pounds on her. I brought her home and she went to work with me. She started seeing a therapist. All of a sudden, she started having flashbacks. One of the flashbacks was that her father had molested her. Taylor wrote her father a letter and said she knew that he had sexually molested her. So that's when she started really spiraling down. She just couldn't even imagine the fact that her father had done something like that to her. It's been a huge part of her underlying trauma. She has told me many times her mind is a tornado and she's swirling around and she can't do anything. Taylor has told me several times the only reason she fights to live is because of me. It hurts. It hurts so bad, and I just don't know where to go next.
She has now made very serious accusations that repressed memories came up that her father had molested her. Do you believe that?
My feeling is that I'm not the judge and I wasn't there. I don't
You were
know.
there.
I was there, but I wasn't there. If it did happen, I wasn't there. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if it really happened. And I can't say that it would happen or did happen. I don't know. I just know that when she started having those memories, that it was very real to her, and she could tell me where it happened, what happened, and she kept having these dreams about being in a pool of blood and stuff like that. So
And do you believe that you would miss that as a mother at the time?
I don't believe that I would miss it, no. I'm not saying he did it or didn't do it. I don't know. And I just know that my daughter is very ill and she is trauma-ridden.
I know that she's very ill. I mean, but I've seen a lot of videotape of her. She's answered all of our questions.
Right.
She's been very forthcoming, which tells me that she's highly motivated to get better.
Yeah.
She really wants that. And I think she's probably at the core of her soul a very fine young woman that wants to do well in life. I'm trying to find out what your maternal instinct tells you about this. And I know you want to support your daughter, and I know you want to stand behind her, but authenticity, honesty is one thing, and enabling a delusional belief is another. And if you believe her, you need to say so. And if you don't, you need to say so. You're not going to help her by being sucked into a delusional system if you think that's what it is. If you think you were married to a predator, if you think that he did this, you need to say so.
I can't see Larry molesting a little girl myself. I know that she told me that he used to take her downstairs and call her little princess, and then he would play with her, and that she thought that was part of life and that was normal.
I was known for dance throughout the whole Midwest. I was the one to beat. I moved to LA when I was 18, right out of high school, looking for a career in dance. LA was a disaster. It ruined me. It spiraled pretty quick with the binging, the purging, and the laxatives. I had a really low self-esteem because when I moved to LA, I sucked compared to everybody. I was in a video, but dancing around in your lingerie, it's pretty humiliating. I just got to a point where I couldn't take it anymore, and I had all this accumulation of meds, and I called my mom and I said, it's either the pills or call you. And she said, I'll be on the first flight to come get you. That was the first time I told anyone that I was that dark and that lonely and that isolated and that miserable, because I wanted everyone to believe that I was gonna make it. I came off my meds, but I changed my diet and I was doing, yoga and energy stuff. I had my first PTSD memory. All of a sudden, I started screaming and crying and dropped to the floor. And it was like a movie flashing before me. This memory of my dad sexually abusing me as a little girl. So I wrote a letter to my dad and I confronted him. I wrote in there that I was no longer numb or oblivious to the sexual abuse and trauma he put me through as a child. And he denies it. I don't want to be alone in this anymore. I'm trying to figure out how to be in this world. And I just feel guilty for being alive. I'm so confused. I feel like an 8-year-old little girl in an adult world, and I'm trying to function, and I have to have my mom help me. I'm an 8-year-old girl in a 32-year-old body.
When you say you're overwhelmed and consumed, that you're hopeless, anxious, and depressed, what about? What do you think that's a reaction to?
It's just become a way of life. It's just I wake up every morning. I woke up this morning and I was like, I can't do this. I can't get out of bed. Like, there's nothing. I have no purpose. I have no passion. I feel undeserving to be alive, to wake up. I wake up and I think, what am I gonna do with myself? What am I gonna do? How do I move forward? How do I get out of this bed? And the only thing that gets me out of the bed is my eating disorder. Mm-hmm. It's keeping me alive, and it's killing me.
Pretty paradoxical, right? I mean, the only reason you're getting up is to be with your disease, and your disease is killing you.
It's the only way I know how to cope.
What is it you're coping with?
The depression and the anxiety.
So it's very circular.
Yes. And we keep trying to address the eating disorder, and we don't ever get to the root. We don't ever get to the depression or the anxiety. Uh-huh.
And what are you doing to try to deal with the eating disorder? Are you getting professional help?
I've been seeking a lot of help. I've been an inpatient, outpatient, and nothing's working.
We're out of time for today, but there's more to unravel regarding the dysfunction in T's life, her relationship with her mother, Jan, and how she feels about her father, Larry. Tomorrow, we'll continue to peel back the layers and start answering some questions we are all wondering about.
Worried parents.
Taylor got down to 80 pounds. She was days away from dying.
And a shocking accusation.
Repressed memories came up that her father had molested her. Have you ever been sexually inappropriate with your daughter?
No. New Dr. Phil. Check your local listings.
Do you have a story or a question for me? Click the link in the description and tell me what in the world is going on.